I'm really excited to be here today. It's always really fun and inspiring for me to meet and talk with all the different business owners and members of teams that are working so hard to bring great products to shoppers. We're here to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is going global, where we're going to try to offer you some streamlined strategies to increase your visibility and your reach across a global growing economy. Before we jump in, though, 2 housekeeping items. First, please remember to hold any of your verbal questions until the end. You can submit questions via the app. We'll have a little QR code come up in a second where you can pull that up. And then we'll save like 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. Second, I'm sure you've been told several times already today, but go ahead and take a moment to silence any of your devices, turn them off. Hopefully our great content will make it easy for you to pay attention. But if not, remember that this is being live streamed and it will be recorded to be sent out after the conference. So my name's Thomas Johnson. I'm a senior manager of marketing here at Amazon Ads. A lot of you have probably seen content or recommendations from my team, whether that be within Seller Central, the advertising console, our website, or maybe more than likely your email inbox, where I know we can be quite active sometimes. My team is ultimately trying to help brand owners understand how and when to use a lot of our solutions like sponsored brands, sponsored display, brand stores, or sponsored TV to really differentiate yourselves and leverage your brand to grow long-term sales. I'm really honored to be joined by Richa Sharma, one of our principal product managers on our sponsored products team. Richa and her team aim to build products and features really intended to make global advertising easier and more effective than you. And then I'm also super excited to have Kyle Gogan with us, co-founder of Carbon Pickleball. Kyle and his team have a really fun story of falling in love with pickleball and seeing an opportunity to move quickly, fill a need within the rapid rise of pickleball and its conquest of tennis courts across the country. So today we're going to start by talking about some of the global economic headwinds that folks are facing, the value that you might find in advertising globally. Then we're going to dive into some of the specific ways that Amazon Ads is trying to make global advertising easier and more effective for you. We'll also hear from Kyle and his team directly on how they're approaching global selling and global advertising. And then we're going to come back and give you guys some concrete steps and key takeaways that you can take back to your teams. So before we jump in, here's that little QR code I mentioned that you can scan, submit your questions, chat as we go, and then we'll try to cover some of those at the end. All right. So why would you advertise globally? We know that effectively running ads in your own country can be time-consuming and expensive. You have to navigate which ad solution to use, how to distribute your budget across different products, just constantly managing keywords, bids, always optimizing. This is all just within the broader context of trying to run your business successfully and make a profit. Then we add the complexities of an additional country, whether it be the challenges you face in localizing content, keywords, just feeling confident, understanding the local dynamics for your product and your categories. The challenge is real, but we do think there are a lot of opportunities. The main benefit of advertising globally is that, first and foremost, you can find more customers across the globe who are interested in products just like yours. Secondly, it's a really great opportunity to take advantage of additional peak and seasonal shopping seasons, opportunities like Ramadan, Diwali, Buen Fin in Mexico. These are all really great moments where you can make sure your product is right in front of shoppers when they're looking to purchase. Finally, remember with Amazon Ads, you can actually create ads in any time zone. Our ads are going to help display whenever shoppers are browsing for a relevant product, regardless of the time zone that you're in. What does this all mean for you? Well, simply put, more sales. In fact, our data shows that you can reach a higher marketing efficiency by advertising globally. After only 4 months of launching sponsored ads in a new country, advertisers see an average return on their ad spend of 2.4. Now, I do want to pause here for a second because I think a lot of folks in this group are thinking the same thing I did. Only 2.4? Well, remember that with a ROAS of 2.4, you're already making over double of what you're investing in ads. And that's just within the first 4 months, where, let's be honest, you're just getting started. This value is going to continue to grow over time as you optimize and as you build momentum with new campaigns. I've been with Amazon Ads for almost 8 years now, always on our sponsored ad side of the business. And I really love seeing this next slide. It's pretty mind-boggling to me that selling partners like yourself can now use sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored display, brand stores in 23 different countries, with new countries coming online every year. Countries like Belgium last year and South Africa earlier this year. So while this might be very exciting for me as our business has grown and scaled globally, I think it can also be pretty overwhelming and maybe a little intimidating for selling partners like yourselves who are looking how to tap into this global economy and leverage ads all around the world as a driver of your business. And we do know it's not that simple. We've talked with a lot of you, and I think we're starting to understand some of the key challenges that a lot of you face when scaling globally. Whether that be the complexities of fulfillment and logistics, or regulations in different countries and regions. Maybe it's just feeling confident with audiences that don't speak your language or have cultural nuances. Or maybe it's simply just the resources, whether that be time, people power, the budget to be effective. Our hope, though, is that we're making this easier for you. Over the last few years, our teams at Amazon Ads have been working extremely hard and have a big emphasis on how we can simplify how ads work globally, where we want to tailor your experience and invest in features within the advertising console that help you grow internationally. So I'm excited to pass the mic over to Richa Sharma, who's been instrumental in building a lot of the features you're going to hear about and going to tell you some of what ads has to offer. Thank you.
Thanks, Dee. So let's take a look at some of the solutions that we have built here at Amazon Ads to overcome some of the barriers that Dee just talked about. Starting with the first one, fulfillment and logistics. Did you know that you don't necessarily have to ship your products to a country that you want to expand into? We have global selling solutions to help you with that. For example, we have remote fulfillment with FBA in North America. So as a US seller, you don't necessarily have to ship your products to Mexico and Canada to be able to start selling in those countries. What's even better is you can also start advertising those ASINs in Canada and Mexico. Now, the next question you'll ask is, hey, there are all these countries that I want to start advertising in, but I don't know these countries very well. To solve for that, Amazon has a broad range of resources available online to help you with things like peak shopping events that Dee just talked about, or local shopping trends. Did you know that you can also request for a free one-on-one support from a dedicated advertising specialist who can help you set up, review, and optimize your campaigns? This one is a big one, language barrier. The great news is you don't necessarily need to know the local language of a country that you're trying to expand into. Let's take a look at some of the free tools that Amazon Ads offers to solve for this. These are some of the two biggest features and very powerful ones, and I want to spend some time talking about these because they'll come over and over in our presentation again. The first one is the language switcher. What that does is you can translate your ads console pages in any country into any language that you're most familiar with. Before this launch, we supported a set of languages in different countries. With this launch, now we support all languages everywhere. The second one is called Currency Converter. What that does is you can you can convert your currencies of your performance metrics, like ROAS, your total ad spend, total sales, in the currency of your choice. And you can also do that anywhere. Now, the next question you might ask is, okay, how do I set keywords in a new country where I don't know the language? And keywords are critical to the success of campaigns. Well, thanks to keyword localization, which allows you to translate your own set of keywords into the target language of any country that you're trying to expand to. We also have suggested keyword localization, which lets you translate our suggested keywords into the language of your target country. Now, these suggested keywords tend to see 17% higher click-through rate than self-selected keywords. We also have professional linguists who offer a high-quality translation services for both text and video for 14 supported languages. And we observed that on an average, advertisers who use translation services to create sponsored ads campaigns in a new country tend to see a ROAS of 2.7 in just 1 month after launching that campaign. If you want even faster automated translations, you can also take advantage of our one-click text and video localization to match the local language of your target country, and this is available in our campaign builder. Okay, next, I want to move on to the set of global advertising solutions that I am personally most excited to present. But before that, let's recap the 3 biggest barriers that we have for expanding into a new country. I don't know the language, I don't know the currency, and there are repetitive steps on Amazon ads. We talked about language, we talked about currency. Let's talk about the repetitive steps. And I want to talk about those steps in the 3 core areas of your advertising journey: accounts, campaigns, and performance reports. Let's start with accounts. Previously, if you have to advertise in a country, you had to register for an advertising account in that country, and you had to repeat that process for every country you wanted to advertise in. To solve for that, we launched global accounts. With global accounts, now you can register once for all the different countries and start advertising right away. We also launched something called as a country switcher toggle button. Before that button, if you had to manage your advertising in different countries, you had to literally sign in and out of each country. With the toggle button, that process became as simple as just the switch of a toggle button. Let's move to the next part of the journey, campaigns. Now, you set up your advertising account. The next thing you do is you build your campaign, and then you manage and optimize your campaign. I'll get to the campaign building part later. Let's start with managing and optimization. Previously, if you had to manage and optimize your campaign in a country, you had to do that country by country. So we had a campaign manager dashboard for US and UK and all the countries separately. To solve for that, we launched the Global Campaign Management Dashboard on Ads Console. Using this, you can now view, manage, and optimize your campaigns globally on just a single dashboard. And you could do it in the language that you're most familiar with and the currency of your choice. How it helps in reality. Let's say you're on a Prime Day, you log into Ads Console at 1 p.m. You want to look at how much sales did I generate all morning? Do I need to adjust any budgets because my campaigns are running out of budgets? You could do all of that globally on just one single page. And if you need to focus on a country or a set of countries or a region, you can do that very easily by using country filters on this page. I'll come back to the campaign building part. This is a solution that we launched which allows you to create a campaign in multiple countries at the same time. However, we are launching a much better version of this solution very soon, so I'll talk about that in an upcoming slide. And then let's move to the last part of the journey, which is performance reports, managing performances of your campaigns. Previously, if you had to look at your global ad spend or your global sales or ROAS, what you had to do was generate Excel files for each country, then manually merge them, and then convert currencies to figure out all these metrics. To solve for that, we launched the Global Performance Reports, which lets you do all of that with just a single click, and in the language that you're most familiar with and the currency of your choice. So far, we've talked about the existing tools that we already have to expand your brand globally. Now, there are exciting new features coming that will make it even easier to expand your brand across different countries. Now, here is a sneak peek of what's about to come. We talked about the global campaign management dashboard just a while ago. We'll be adding a whole range of new features on this page, like exports, or the visual representation of the data in terms of the chart, and the bulk editing capability, which lets you edit those campaigns together instead of one by one. With all of these features, we will actually make the global campaign management dashboard as the default campaign manager on Ads Console. Now we talked about the core parts of your advertising journey: accounts, campaigns, reporting. But there's a whole range of solutions in between that we have also launched to make this transition smoother. For example, global permissions. Without global permissions previously, you had to invite and manage users for each country one by one. With global permissions, you can do that for all countries in a single workflow. The global billing features, one of the features that we are launching is you have to set up a default billing profile, and we copy that profile over to all the other countries. Now, what that means for you, it means you can start running your ad campaigns from day one without having to worry about billing issues. And you can also view your invoices on a single global dashboard. And you can use your seller balances in any country to pay for your advertising in all other countries. Soon, you'll also be able to localize sponsored display video and custom headlines as part of campaign creation. And now I want to talk about a solution that brings everything that we talked about together. It's called Global Campaigns. So we talked about global accounts, we talked about global campaign management, optimization, and global reporting. Global Campaign brings all of it together on one solution. So what is Global Campaign? It is a single campaign that you can target multiple countries with. Now, we'll go into more details in just a bit, but we're starting with sponsored products this year, and we'll roll it out for brand stores, sponsored brands, sponsored display a bit later. Here's a preview of global campaigns. As you can see, you can create a single campaign across all of these 5 countries in a single workflow. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to fill out the campaign builder 5 times. What it means is, for example, if you start with US, you tell us which products you want to advertise, what targets, the bids, and the budgets. What we do for you is we auto-localize all of these campaign inputs for all of these remaining 4 countries. And we auto-fill all of this information for you. If you want, you can go ahead, make any updates to any of these countries. But if not, you can launch this single campaign for all these 5 countries with just a click of a button. And once you launch this campaign, if you want to manage it, optimize it, report on it, you can do all of it together at an aggregated level for all countries, and you can drill down the performance of each country separately as well. So this saves a ton of time, as well as the repetitive steps that I just talked about for the entire advertising flow. Now, we talked about all of these features that will help you grow your brand globally, but the question is, how are these products and features supporting international expansion in practice? So I want to introduce our guest speaker, Kyle, co-founder of Carbon Pickleball.
All right. Thank you, Richa, and thank you, Amazon, for having me here. I'm an Amazon seller, just like all of you guys, and I'm excited to speak with you today about our experience expanding international in 2024. Before I jump in, I just want to run through a few slides explaining who we are as a brand. So at Carbon, we focus on providing the highest performance pickleball paddles and other types of pickleball gear, all with a sleek and simple aesthetic, just focused on performance. Our paddles are used by amateurs and professionals across the country, and it's exciting for us because as we expand globally, this is the first time they're being used in other countries like Canada, which I'm going to speak about in a second here. Here's a few examples of some of the products we carry. I already talked about paddles. You can see in here some of our bags, eyewear, and even a dog toy that's shaped like a pickleball paddle that my co-founder, he made as a joke, but it's actually turned out to be a really successful product for us. So here is a timeline of the company. All right, so our paddles are actually never meant to be a business. My business partner, Garrett, who's right there, he was a really talented pickleball player. He developed these paddles for himself just to play in tournaments. And as he was kind of rising up the ranks and beating people, they were asking him where they could buy these paddles themselves. And enough people asked that he realized, maybe this is a business. So he contacted his childhood friend, me, and the rest is history. So we launched our business in August of 2021 from Garrett's garage. And it was him and I and Garrett's mom and my wife just packing and shipping orders all day for the first year or so until we kind of outgrew that space. So that outgrowing of the space happened in 2022, and we finally had to say goodbye to Garrett's house. Garrett's wife got pregnant, and that was the last straw. We had taken up the garage, the living room, and we're like spilling into other bedrooms, and so it was time to leave. So we moved, packed everything up, sent all the inventory into FBA, into a local 3PL, and then moved ourselves into an office space. All right. 2023, we really kind of broke out and put ourselves on the map. We'd been sponsoring professional pickleball players since the beginning, but in 2023, they had a ton of success, which really helped our brand. So we had some of our players win the Major League Pickleball Championship, and we also had a few win gold in the PPA as well. In early 2024, we started to launch into some bigger box retail. From the beginning of the business, we'd always sold into small mom and pop, independent pickleball shops across the country, but this was our first venture into larger retail. So we launched in Scheels, which is a big retailer in the Midwest, and that's gone well. And then we launched onto Dick's Sporting Goods website as well, and we're hoping to launch in store there later this year or early next. And that brings me to kind of the whole point of all of this is our expansion internationally. So mid-2024, we officially expanded into Canada using Amazon. Previously, our products were available internationally just through our website. So customers truthfully had a pretty poor experience internationally. They could buy from us on our website, but they had to deal with currency conversion, customs as product was coming over the border, and I guess frankly also really slow shipping, which was a huge hurdle for those customers. So we could look on our website and see that the conversion rate for international customers and also the repeat purchase rate versus US customers was far lower. So we really wanted to do something about this, and Amazon seemed like the obvious answer for us to expand into Canada. All right, so Amazon Ads has been an integral part of our Amazon business from the beginning. Even in the .com or the US market, ads accounted for 35% of our overall business in our first year. And I would argue it's even more important as we expand into Canada and other countries, given that we just have far less brand awareness in these other marketplaces. So Amazon put together this next slide. They gave me some stats on international advertising that help back up my point that ads are important as you grow internationally. So 4 months after launching in an international market with sponsored products, sellers are seeing 41% of their total sales coming from sponsored products. And if you look at specifically Canada, it's about 35%, and then in the UK, it's about 39%. All right. So now I'm going to walk you through our strategy when it comes to identifying and launching in these different marketplaces. So the first thing that's most important is selecting the right countries. So for us, we looked at things that were obvious. I guess proximity to us, Canada, it's close, that made it easy. Language, also the same, and kind of culturally very similar to the US. So it was a no-brainer for us. It was the first place to look into. We also saw, like I mentioned earlier, we had a lot of Canadian customers already on our website and also a lot of traffic from Canada. So for us, that was the indicator that this would be a good place to start. And kind of along the same vein, the UK is probably the next place we're going to look for all of the same reasons other than proximity. So after you identify the countries that make the most sense for your company, I would say you need to do your research and make sure that those countries actually have the demand for your products. So we sort of already knew that because we were seeing traffic to our website, but we dug way deeper using all the different tools that you guys have available to you on Amazon, whether it's actually looking at search volume in these different marketplaces, or you can utilize a bunch of other tools on Google, for example, as well. Just look at keyword trends is my recommendation, and you can see kind of as if your market is growing and kind of the market size compared to the US. Staying on number 2 here, the other thing I would recommend, as you pick these markets to expand into, I would start small. That's my personal opinion. Send in your best sellers. Don't send your whole catalog. Obviously, it varies how many SKUs you sell, but start small, and as soon as you see success, just scale it up quickly. So moving on to number 3, take advantage of all the tools that Richa already went over in her slides. Keyword localization is a huge one. So we already know most of the English keywords because of the US market, but even in Canada, we're looking into the French keywords to target next. And then in addition to that, the multi-country campaign creation tools where you can copy and duplicate campaigns is huge, so you don't have to do the work twice. And lastly, the actual ad products themselves. My recommendation is to use all of the ad products, but maybe that isn't realistic from the get-go. So if you're going to start with one, I would recommend sponsored products, because sponsored products, you're targeting people far lower in the funnel, sales funnel. These are people with intent that are looking to buy your products already, and so it's a much easier sell. You'll probably see a higher return on your investment, and it's especially important in that early stage of a launch, in that honeymoon period, to kind of make sure you're going after all the relevant keywords. From there, I would highly recommend looking into sponsored brands and sponsored display. These are generally kind of higher funnel type advertisements, but it's crucial for anybody who's trying to build a brand and brand awareness internationally, like we are. So overall, our budget breaks down to roughly 80% sponsored products, 15% sponsored brands, and 5% sponsored display. But I encourage you to figure out what breakdown works best for your brand, because every brand is different.
Cool.
All right.
Kyle, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Kyle, it's always fun to hear how you guys are taking like a passion project and have actually turned it into a global business in 3 years. It's pretty impressive. So thank you again for being here and sharing some of the success. Okay, so for the next little bit, we're going to get into the weeds a little bit. And we're going to focus on some of the concrete steps that you all can take and take back to your teams to help you maximize the impact of your global advertising. So whether you've recently launched ads in your second country, or maybe you're already active in 5, there are some concrete core actions that we think you can take within the first few months of launching ads in a new country, that honeymoon period that Kyle talked about a minute ago. I was told that folks like good round numbers, so we're going to try to keep it to 5 steps for you guys for today. The first one, obviously the basics. Make sure that you complete those basics of setting up your sponsored products campaigns. But beyond that, it's inevitable that once shoppers start visiting your detail pages, they're going to want to click on your brand name, and they're going to expect to land on your brand storefront. So go ahead, make sure that you get that brand store live. It's free to set up. I know that it takes time, but it's going to immediately help you start to build your brand's presence and build trust with shoppers in a new country. So getting that store live as soon as possible is probably one of the most important things you can do as you're establishing yourself. It's going to allow you to start to introduce these shoppers to who you are and let your products tell your own story. In fact, 62% of Amazon shoppers surveyed value brand familiarity when making a purchase decision. Just like you would in your primary country, use that brand storefront as an educational destination page where shoppers can get to know your mission, your values, see your full product catalog. And initially, all that traffic is going to be coming from your detail pages. So we really emphasize setting up a strong homepage experience. Lean into the lifestyle and the video creative especially when you're getting started. Unfortunately, unlike that graphic we have up there for you guys. But be sure to focus on optimizing the above the fold experience, because that's the first impression folks are going to have when they come to see who you are. Also, make sure that your store looks as good on mobile as it does on desktop. And ideally, if you can, aim to have at least 3 pages set up. This is going to give shoppers something to really explore and click around. Start to find out who you are, see your selection. Step number 2. Now we're going to start optimizing a little bit with dynamic bids down-only bidding strategy. I like Kyle's guidance. Start small. And where you start to see success, start gradually dialing up. It's going to be crucial that in these early days, you monitor regularly and make small adjustments. Once your first campaign is running in a new country, take a stab at defining benchmarks, either based on your business objectives or find a similar campaign within your home country that you can compare it to and see how it's working. You might see pretty different and surprising results either at the product level or at the keyword level. So as you're optimizing, ensure that you're optimizing for each country. I mentioned it a minute ago, but we really do recommend using that dynamic bids down-only strategy. Remember, with dynamic bids down-only, Amazon can reduce your bids in real time for clicks that are less likely to convert to a sale, meaning that we're helping your budget go further. So over those initial weeks, you're going to look to strategically increase your bids. Once you have an idea of what's working well, that's when you can start to improve the overall cost effectiveness of your campaigns. I'm sure you'll be strategic, but in these additional countries, look for the low-hanging fruit opportunities, moments where you're seeing low impressions, but high conversion, high ROAS, but still where you have enough search volume that it's going to be worth your while to actually advertise and drive traffic. And this part, it's always complex. And it's really going to be up to you and your uniqueness of your business and how aggressive you want to be and how fast you want to scale. Lastly, set your budgets. Start with something that you're comfortable with. You're probably going to be conservative getting started in a new country. But one, make sure that it's enough that you're not running out of budget too early in the day. And secondly, for these initial campaigns, do make sure that they're always on. We really don't want you missing out on sales opportunities. And those always on campaigns are going to start building momentum and providing insights for you to optimize down the road. And speaking of that, step 3, this is where you're going to dust off those search term reports and start to get your hands dirty with manual keyword targeting. Now, this might feel daunting, especially if you're facing a language barrier. But do remember that Amazon can also automatically translate keywords at the local language for you. All you have to do is pick. Because you probably launched your first campaigns internationally with automatic targeting, you're going to use that manual keyword targeting to gain more control over time. You're going to download the search term reports from your automatic targeting campaigns, and you're going to look for the keywords that are generating the most clicks and the most sales. And from there, you're going to take them and add them to a new campaign in a separate campaign. And however you choose to manage this, we do recommend that you use all the different match types, whether that be phrase, exact match, broad match. And lastly, probably the most important thing you can do to optimize performance is start using negative keyword targeting. This is going to make sure that your ads aren't showing against keywords and search terms that you'd really prefer it not, or where you're seeing low performance. Step number 4, we're making progress. Product targeting. Product targeting is fun because with product targeting, all you have to do is select products or brands or even whole categories that are relevant to your products and your brand. There's really no need for you to localize anything. You can use all the features exactly like you would in your home country. And just like keyword targeting, you can use negative product targeting, where even if you have products or brands that are relevant to yours, for whatever reason, maybe you don't want your products or your ads showing up next to those. And so negative product targeting is going to help you do that. Finally, step number 5. Once you've established yourself and you have a very strong foundation with sponsored products, now it's time to start capitalizing on your brand store. Or you can consider turning to sponsored brands to start differentiating yourself. Maybe actually you'd rather use sponsored display, where you can tap into the powerful audience and retargeting features to start to extend your reach and expand on the sponsored product strategy that you're seeing success with. if you are feeling confident in your brand's presence, and this is something you want to capitalize on, like the Carbon team, sponsored brands should be your next investment. This is where you can establish yourself globally and start to build out share of voice for shoppers that are already searching in your aisle. This is when you can double down on bringing traffic to your storefront so that shoppers are only experiencing you and your products, not all your competitors. And with sponsored brands now able to optimize for specific goals, start with drive page visits campaigns. You're going to see more traction, higher click-through rate, and start to then layer in grow brand impression share to make sure that you're reaching shoppers at that most prominent top of search placement. And while it might be a little bit of a creative lift, we do highly recommend that you start with video ads. There's no doubt that shoppers are engaging with video, and video is just everywhere. So use this format to showcase both your products, your brand, drive traffic to your store from your video ads with that eye-catching, auto-playing video content. And remember, if you don't have existing videos, we do have a free self-service video builder where you can create professional-looking videos in just minutes. I think Carbon Pickleball has been a great example of a business that's utilizing a very dynamic advertising strategy across all of our solutions. But we know it doesn't happen overnight. If localized, high-quality content and ad creative is something that's a challenge for you, or maybe it's going to take you time to develop, this is where we recommend leaning into sponsored displays, remarketing strategies. It's a great complement for your successful international sponsored products campaigns, and it's going to allow you to re-engage those shoppers that are already viewing either your products or things that are similar to yours. We've actually seen that brands who launched a sponsored display campaign after already using sponsored products and a brand store saw a 7% average increase in ad impressions within just the 4 weeks of launching that sponsored display campaign. So we talked about this a little bit on video, but creative is not something that Amazon Ads has emphasized historically. And I think it's something that we're learning is becoming more and more important over time. High quality creative matters. And many of you may already be aware, but we've recently launched Image Generator, which is our first AI-powered tool that's designed to remove creative barriers and save you time. You get to use this technology to produce lifestyle or brand-themed content within seconds. You can honestly create infinite variations, which is going to allow you to test and see what type of creative is performing best in each marketplace at any given time. You can see what has the strongest engagement, what's driving the best return. Now, if any of you have explored Image Generator already, it's still early days, and you may not be seeing all the results that you're looking for, but you can start to practice refining the output through prompts, short prompts, or you can apply some of the seasonal themes or even the lifestyle themes that we've recently added. We've even started getting into moods, something like elegant. Now, for example, we're about to start fall here in the US, but I don't know if shoppers down in Mexico are gonna be super inspired or see relevant, beautiful fall foliage that maybe our shoppers in the US will. So this is sort of a great opportunity of how we're trying to leverage something like AI to let folks iterate on their creative and drive higher engagement in different marketplaces and seasonally. I've had a lot of fun experimenting with Image Generator, and for those that aren't familiar with it, it's pretty easy to use. You can access it directly in the ad console right along the left-hand rail under the creatives icon, or you can access it directly in sponsored brands or sponsored display campaign creation when you get down to the little creative module at the bottom. Image Generator is currently actually available in the US, Canada, Mexico, Germany, Spain, and the UK. So we understand while this may take you several months or longer to build, we've really designed sponsored ads to work better together, even more so for global businesses. We've recently seen that advertisers who are using all sponsored ads products in multiple countries have seen on average 88% of their sales growth coming from countries that are different from their brand's home country. So I'm going to pass it back to Richa to take us home, and then we'll be ready for Q&A.
Great. Thanks, T. Whew. Okay, that was a lot of information, but we did keep it to 5 steps. Now let's tie everything back together again. You now know that advertising globally has its benefits. There are tools to help you achieve success and overcome the complexity of foreign countries. And remember, Now you can advertise across all countries in just 3 steps. Create one account, create one campaign, and 1 performance reports. There are thousands of examples like Carbon Pickleball that show how local brands open their business map internationally and accelerate growth with Amazon ads. And once you've learned the basics of setting up your sponsored ads in new countries to help improve the performance of your international ads, remember to complete the 5-step checklist. And believe it's time to now go global.